Hello guys, how are we doing today? Today I'm continuing in the series that we had started in a long while now, and I'm sorry about my voice. I kind of have cold and affecting me, so please bear with me. So today we're going to be looking at material, adding up materials, and we're going to be looking at adding 3 different material to some sets of balls, and I hope this should not be a long tutorial, and I'm going to be pretty fast about this one, so let's get into it. Alright, so for speed purpose I'm going to be hiding this first so that our render will kind of get fast. So I'm going to create a material here first. Double click. I have a material, so I can call this material test. So these materials I'm going to be adding them to I'm going to be hiding all this first by clicking on this check mark switch so that they go off. So before then I'm going to add this material to the new set of spheres that we want to look for material. So let's even call this sphere, this test, glass material. So I'm going to be making glass material first. So I'm adding this material to random objects. So I'm going to select the object that I want to add the materials to. Here I'll select this, hold down shift, select this and this. So then I'm going to right click on the material and apply. Then that material gets applied to this object, so I can hide this first. So for me to know the object I have this material selected, okay, let me just take off this display to garage shading. Then if I open the material, the glass material, and I disable the color channel, everything turns black, so I see the object I add materials to. Alright, so those ones that are added materials to, if you look at the spheres, they have jagged edges, and we don't really tend to have, they are not smooth, and by the time I start rendering you also see these jagged edges. Now the reason why I did not touch the ones with furrows are because the fur is covering it, so we don't really see the jaggedness of this sphere. So, and I'm also trying to work with low poly, so that's why I didn't do something about the subdivision level, because the fur is already covering it. But in this case, I'm not using fur on this, I'm using glass material, so I need to make sure that this object is smooth. So I'm going to select the object again. So selecting the object, I'll go to the polygon mode, then I'll Ctrl A to highlight and select all the faces, then right click here, go to subdivision. Now I'm not clicking on the subdivision, I'm coming to this setting icon beside it. So as soon as I click on the setting icon, it tells me to what subdivision I want, and the thing I want to talk about here is the smooth division. Now I can make the subdivision 1 and smoothing it, then everything smooth, but I want to still increase it, so I'm going to just make it 2 subdivision. But very importantly, I'm going to check this. So checking this will make it smooth all the more. So if I click on OK, it subdivides and smoothing the surface. You can already see that the shape is smooth, and we can work with that. So I can go back to my object mode. So I'm going to be turning on what I need. So for me to create my glass, I need to make sure my transparency is on, I don't need the color channel. So as soon as I click on transparency, see everything goes off. But for the transparency, if you come to the refraction preset, we have custom preset there. So if I click here, we have a whole lot of custom presets here, but what I want is glass, so I'll click on glass. Then we have this glass effect on this object. So let me bring up my interactive render region. I just want it to be somewhere here, something very, I don't want too much. So I want just this small part so that I can have a little things to calculate on. So what are the things? You can already see the glass that I made, and but this looks too smooth. I don't really want glass. Is not my glass. I don't want it to be this really smooth. I want to add some bumps to it and have a kind of cracky feel to this glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to this reflection, delete the default specular, then I'm going to add my own Beckman. So click on Beckman, then I will come back to this Fresnel. Coming to the Fresnel, I'm going to change the Fresnel style. So let me take off this interactive render. So when I need it, I'm going to bring it back. Change this to dielectric preset, go to glass. Then I want to add a little bit of roughness to it. Then if I go to this reflectance, there is a section for bump. You can see bump strength. If you click on the arrow beside the bump strength, you have this texture and mode. So I'm going to change the mode from default to bump map. Clicking on that bump map, then it brings up this custom texture. So I can just click on this, add anything that I want to use for any effect that I want to use for the bump. So I'm going to click on this gradient. Clicking on the gradient, I'll open the gradient, and you will say, okay, how would gradients add a bump to it? Now there is a setting that we can change, this turbulence. Now the reason why this thing is smooth because we have no turbulence value added, so the transition from these two colors goes in a smooth direction. But for me to have a regularity to all this, if I increase this bump to let's say 10, it then starts to see the shape on this object. So what I'm going to do is I will increase it to the highest, which is 100. So I have very sharp, I have this effect of this turbulence on the transition from one color to another color. Another thing is reducing this value, this scale will add more, will make the transition or the turbulence very large. So if I bring this to 50, notice that this is large, but I want to reduce it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to reduce this value, increase the value. So let's try 200. Okay, let's try 300. Okay, I think I like this. So but I don't want the turbulence to go all around the object. I want to have a part of the object very smooth and the other part, you can already see the break of the light here. If you can see this, see the breaking of the light. So I'm going to bring this and squash it down until I have the transition gradually fading into white. So what I can also do is add some effects to it. So if I go out, you can see this effect. I'm going to right click here, click here and go to layer. Then I want to add another effect to it. So if I click here, I should, I should just do that on the roughness. So I'm going to go back. So I'll go to the roughness. So I'll open this roughness. I want to add a texture to the roughness. So I have some textures here that I have in my library. So what I want to do is I want to add a kind of fingerprints to the ball. So I'm going to drag this fingerprint to the texture, and no, then the fingerprint effect is added to the roughness of this object. You can see the way the reflection has been breaking down, it's been breaking off due to this texture that I've mapped to the roughness. So some parts will be very shiny, some parts will be very reflective, right? That while some parts will be rough and have a glossy effect to it. So, and the good thing is that's added to the reflection, and let's try and see what we are going to get with that. So once I do that, I'm going to pause this and come back. I want to try and reduce the time. Alright, so just hold with me. Thank you. Alright, so what I'm expecting to see, I am not seeing it. Still looks very smooth, and I think I'll have to go into this and check some settings. So let me take this off. If I open the glass texture, and I think if I come to this, let me add a bit of blurriness to this effect. 3, and let me also bring texture. I think this. Okay, what I'm going to do is this bumpiness, I'm going to copy this and go to the actual bump channel and paste it there. I think that is what I should have done. Then I'm going to clear this off. Default. So I'm taking this back to the default. So what I'm doing is, instead of adding the bump to this reflectance section, I'm adding it to the bump channel, and you can already see this effect here, and the bump is very intense. The effect is much, so I'm going to reduce this bumpy effect till I have a subtle effect to this glass. You can already see this, but for the roughness, I think I like that. And let me do another test render, then I'll be back. Okay, hold on please. Okay, you can already start to see the effect of the bumpiness on this object, but I still feel it's too shiny and reflective. I want to add a kind of translucent effect to it. I don't want the transparency to be that intense, so I'm going to go back to the glass texture, go to the transparency, add more blurriness to this. So if I make this 8 and go to the bump, go to the reflectance, increase the blurriness, the roughness somewhat more, and you can already see this effect that I'm looking for. So if I close this and do another test render, and let's see what we have for this thing, and I think I'm just going to stop it here, then go into another material. So I could still go and add more. Let's make this 15. I'm trying to go overboard so that I can see what I have. I don't want this. Yes, this is what I'm looking for. Let's hope this comes out clean. Let's go to this. So I could even go into this gradient, and let's see if we can even reduce this to more, 350. And I'm going to control drag this so that I can add another one here, another color swatch here. Alright, so for this one, I don't want it to be too dark, so I'm going to come to this grayish color. Then for the white, I'm going to use it to squash this down. I think this is still intense, so bring this up a little bit so I can have a kind of little bumpiness there. Alright, so I think that should be fine. Closing that off, and I'm going to do a final render on this, then go to my next material. Okay, so we can already see the breaking of the HDRI, the environments on this glass. You see the light and everything is broken due to the bumpiness added to this glass, and I think I like this, and I think I'm going to stop the glass texture or this frosty glass texture with this. So I will press A to take that off. Then this object that I have selected, or I could just go to the glass, take off the reflectance or transparency for now, so that I can see other object I want to select. Alright, so we have bringing this back on. So we have force to this and we have glass texture to this. So I'm going to add a kind of metal material fill to some objects. So I'm going to select, just like I did for the other one, select, hold down shift, and select other object that I want to add. So I want to add one more here, shift here, shift here, and here, then here. Okay, that, I think that should be. Take this off, control and click on this to take this off. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4 selected. So I'm going to create another material. So this new material, I'm going to right click on it, apply, so it gets applied to this new object. So I could call this metal, old metal. So I am going to try and work on this metal. So double clicking this metal. Now the thing with this metal is that I need to take off this color channel. I want to work wholly in the reflectance, so I'm going to take off this. Everything turns black for that, so we can already see the ones that I've added. So go to the reflectance. I'm going to take off, remove the specular. Now where I want my colors to be is going to be in the reflectance section. So I'm going to add, instead of me having my color here, I'm going to have my color in the reflectance. So the same, if I come here and see lambation diffuse, it's the same thing as coming to this color swatch, clicking this, then you also see lambation, and the diffuse means the color. So I don't want to put it here, I want it to be here. Then, but as soon as I click on the layer, I have the layer color. So what color do you want this to be? So we can look for a particular color that we want. Okay, I think let's look for red, very dark red. I think this is fine. We have that. It's going to be added to this object. So that is for the color and nothing more. And I'm going to double click and start naming this. So this is going to be base color. Then I'm going to add in another layer. This is going to serve as my, I'm going to add a GGX, and this is going to be metallic. So conductor, make it I think silver. Then this silver I'm going to add I'm going to add roughness to it. Now this is getting slow because my 4 is on, so I need to take off this 4 so I can be fast. So I'm going to add roughness to this, and I think that is pretty much what I want for this section, nothing more. So this is going to be the parts, metallic base. Okay, now before I continue, let me tell you what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to have a feel of a metal which is painted off with red color. So you know, when you paint an object, a metallic object, a shiny metallic object, the paint gets over the metallic parts. So the effect I'm trying to look for is adding a kind of scratch to this metallic object, such that the paint is, some part of the paint is scratched off, revealing the metal inside. So I think I know what I need to do. I need to take off this base color. So this is going to be the metal, which is, and the way the layering system works is that it reads from top downward. So let me undo that. You notice that this metallic is at the top, so it's reading the metal from the top, so the metal is completely covering the red color. If I bring this red base color on top, what is going to see is the base, so it's covering this metal. Do you understand? So I hope that is okay. So what I'm going to do for this is, I'm not going to make it a diffuse color. I'm going to change it from, select this, change it from Libation to kind of Beckman, but still have that red effect here. But the reflection, I'm going to reduce the reflection so I don't get, so I can increase this hue so that it becomes brighter. So I have this, reduce the reflection, but then I want to also have a kind of I don't want this paint to be reflective like this, so I'm going to add in bumps to it, so then the reflection is going to be reduced. So now this base color is covering the whole of the metal, but I want to reveal some part of this base color on this. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to add in my roughness to these objects first, so that everything is not shiny, everything is not having this reflection. Some parts are like a feel of touch and dirt and all that. So I'm going to go to this roughness just like I did for this glass, bring in my fingerprints here, then you tend to start to see what is happening. So let me right click here and bring a new window so that you can have a higher effect of this. So now you can already see that this fingerprint is here. If I reduce this reflection strength, or let me just take it off finally, so nothing is being reflective. You can already see the touch of this. So that is what I was trying to talk about. So, and the specular I'm going to bring down, and so that we can see the effect before we start adding it to the object. So I don't want it to be too shiny. Then for me to push this, I'll open into the texture that I've added, then increase the white points or make it default, increase the black points. I think that is too much. I could bring this down up until I have, let's say, 0.2. So it's taking off some of the white points. I can push the white point by increasing the exposure. So you can already see this. So also, can you see this part now? This is what I'm trying to go for. So this kind of effect, you can already see the thumbprint somewhere here, where I don't know if we can see this. Let me increase this based on the recording software. So, but I hope we can already see the thumbprint somewhere here and some of the reflection there. So I'm reducing this black point a little bit, so we have this effect. I don't want it to be too intense and maybe shorter, and we already have this imperfection added to this. So some parts of this object is shiny, is reflective, while some parts is having a glossy effect, which is based on the texture map that I've added to the glossy effect or to the roughness. So the roughness is breaking the reflectivity of this ball. And let's go back, and that is for that. So for us to do the revealing parts of this object, we want to reveal some parts of this object. What we can do is that can be done in our layer mask. Now layer mask is just like that of Photoshop, whereby the white parts of any texture you add will reveal or will show, will be opaque, while the black part will be transparent. So the black part being transparent is going to reveal what is underneath, while the white part will show what this channel is about. So where you add the layer mask, the texture on the layer mask, the white part will show the channel, everything you add for the channel, while the black part will make it transparent so that we can see what is beneath it. So I think before I add my texture, let me add something, just something so we can see. Let me add a noise. So adding a noise, you notice that the noise breaks all these things, and we tend to see more of what is under that. So if I go into this noise, I can increase this to, let's say, 1200. Then I can bring up the contrast. So I'm trying to show some effects so we can see. And so I can use this seed to change what I have here. And my intended design is I want to have some part of this revealing, not most of. So where I have this red is where I want the other parts to show, the metallic parts, while most of the part is going to have that. So I'm going to change this color. So basically the black is the one showing what the channel is. It's my bad, sorry. The black is showing what the channel has, while the white is making it transparent so that I can see through. So if I bring this color, bring it back here, change this to white, the effect will change and you see everything turns red, except those parts that were red before start to turn this. So you can push this contrast even more, so the breaking will be very sharp. So you can already see this. And another effect you can add to this is changing this cycle. So if I make this cycle, let's say 5, you have this effect. Then you can bring back the roughness, so and that will also get added to this object. So I hope you understand this now. Okay, alright, so that is just talking about this roughness. So I'm going to take this off. Clear. I have some textures that I'm going to add, so click here. I have two textures here that I'm going to layer up. So bringing up this white residue here, no, then turn this into a layer object, then go into the layer and bring up scratch. So the scratch is going to be at the top. So this is the scratch, so I can start to rename this. So double click, call this scratch. This one, make it noise. Then I want the scratch to be at the top, on top of the noise. Then I can, just like I said, is reading the scratch over this, so I need to blend them together. So there's a blending mode, just like in Photoshop, that you can blend this object. So let's look at some blend effects we can add to this. Soft lights, no. Overlay, no. Sync. I think screen is better. It's the best here, so I can reduce this. So don't forget, like I showed you in the when I use noise, everywhere you have white, you have the effects being shown, and everywhere you have this, you have that effect. So right now I don't have this effect. The effect is not, I'm not seeing the effects now. So if I go to this color and try to push the exposure, then black points a little bit, it's too much. So you can already start to see the effect here on this object. Okay, so I'm working on a layer at a time, so we have that. So let me hide that layer, come to this scratch, do the same thing, try to push up the exposure, this here. Then bring this down. So let's say 0.2, and then this should be 0.1. Sorry, my system is acting up, so we make this 1. So we already have these 2. Okay, so you can start to see the effect of that scratch here. Make this 5. So make this 3. Okay, so this effect is here, and if we come here and we bring both together, you start to see both effects on this object. But then if you look through, we're having this effect other way around. I want most of this to be the red, while where I have the silver should be, where I have the silver to be the red, and where I have all this little effect to be the to reveal the silver effect. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go out. There is an effect that I can add to change the arrangement of this color, and it's called Polarizer. So if I click here and I go to Polarizer, the Polarizer will add a color effect to it, but I don't need the red. I'm going to change this to white. So doing this will take us back to the normal effects that we had. So I'm going to right click here invert the color. So this is now inverted and you start to see the effect here. So that breaks off this. You can already see this. So I can also push this up. More white clips this off and you have more red color, and that gets added to this. So I can push this even more. I feel that this scratch is too much and intense on this, so I can clip this and push it more, even more, so that it tries to break everything. So we just have less of this effect. I think this should be good here. This should be fine. So what I'm going to do now is, if you notice, there is no form of depth to this. I'm done with the coloring here. There's no form of depth to this object, but I need to add bumpiness and all that to this object so we can have the effect on this object. So the same thing I did for this glass, jaggedness. So I'm going to go to this, select or Control A, then right click, go to subdivision, and we have this. So let's make this 3 because we are going to be adding form of displacement to this. So this is even more. Then you can already start to see the breaking of this object. So if I copy this object here, copy channel, and I go to the bump and paste that into the bump channel. Now what will happen is that everywhere you have the white will come up, and everywhere you have the black will push down or push backwards, and which will be revealing that okay, these parts are inside while the paints are a layer on top of that. So I'm also going to copy this. I'm also going to copy this color and take it to the displacement, paste it here. Now the height is now much. You can already see this pushing up this object, this height. So I feel this height is much considering the scale of my drawing, and let's take this 1, and if it's not enough we are going to come back. Another thing is I'm going to activate this sub polygon, but I don't want too many polygons. I think 2 is enough. So I think we should check what we have. I'm going to close this off. So you can already start to see this effect, and I feel this is too much. So I can open this. So let's see visually. Go to the pump. The pump is much. Reduce the pump so we can start to see less effect here. Then the displacement, we can, okay, let's see what we have for this. Then I'm going to do a test render on this part where I have this object, render region, to render this region. So let's see what we have, and this will take longer time now because we are trying to simulate displacement, real displacement, actual displacement. So, and we have a lot of polygon to work with, so it's going to take a lot of time to render. So I will fast this. Okay, so you can start to see this. I feel that the bump is much, the displacement is also much, and so I'm going to open this back, go to the bump, reduce the percent to 0. Let's say 5%. I want it to be very subtle. If not, I think that is okay. Go to the displacement. The displacement height is also much, 0.5 should do. So let's do another test render and let's see what we have. Okay, so this is getting reduced, so we can see the metallic parts shining through and see the top coat of this color on top of it. So I feel that this scratch is much, and we can go little subtle, so we can make it subtle. So what we can subtle rather. So what we can do is click here. I feel that the bump is still much first, so let's bring the bump back to, let's say, 2, and the displacement also 2.2. Then we'll go to the reflectance, go to the layer mask, the colorizer. I'm going to reduce this white. Okay, don't forget, or we could just push this even more in. Okay, so or we could go into this, reduce this also. I feel this is too much, effect is much, so we can just reduce this here, so we have this effect. So the thing I'm going to do now that I have changed this, I have to recopy this channel and go back to the bump and paste it there, and also to the displacement, then paste. So we have the same effect, revealing all these things. So we have that. So I'm going to add another texture to some and end this tutorial here. So I'm going to create a new texture. So this is just going to be a white plastic object. So Beckman is best for plastic, dielectric, and maybe milk, and bring up roughness a little bit. And so this is going to be this, and I feel that is okay for that. Maybe I want to also break up this. I tend to, I like working in a way that things look realistic, and so I'm going to break the roughness with this texture, not fingerprints now, this texture, and push this, remember, so I can push this contrast, this exposure, and then reduce this. I think that is okay. So let's look for objects that were not added. So this object, hold down shift and add other objects that are visible in the scene here. So now that these objects are added, I'll do the same thing. Control A, right click, subdivision, make these 2. Now because they are farther off, so we would not really, they are not close up, so I can make it 1, but make sure smooth is selected. So it's going to smoothen everything off, and right click on the texture, apply, so it applies it to this object that we have worked on. So we have all the texture and the on all the objects. So I'll go back to this class and activate the glass effect so we can see all this. So come here, activate the transparency, so we have that. So I think that's pretty much it, and I'm going to go to the render settings and go to the physical. We're no more going for progressive. This is going to be automatic, and we don't have subsurface. We can make this 10, and global illumination light map. Go to this custom, change it to custom count, multiply this by 4, and come here, change this. I think this is okay. Then I will come to this light mapping and make sure I check build radio city map, have it checked. Then come to option. Okay, we've done this in the previous tutorial, so okay, so every other thing is fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to render this, pause, render this, then come back and show you what we have. So I'm going to render into my picture viewer with all these textures, and I'll be back. Alright guys, welcome back, and I've done the render and I also did another render. So let me explain what I have done. But the first render I did was, this is the output of it. You can already see the effect of the lighting on this object, and you can see the spheres, the glass spheres and all that. But there's something to this that made me change some settings. Now I added ambient occlusion, and adding the ambient occlusion caused a kind of shadow on each strand of this four. And I also changed the background. I changed the sky object to somewhat studio like, so it's kind of dark. And another thing I did was to come here, I changed the output. I forgot to change this when I started that, so I stopped that and changed the output. Then another thing I did was to come down here. You can notice I now have another HDRI, which is a studio. Then I created a background, and I created also a background material that I used as the background. Then I went to the sky object. I replaced this studio with the one I had before. Then go to a compositing tag, whereby I uncheck the scene by camera. So instead of us seeing this background, we are not seeing this anymore. What we are now seeing is the texture I have for this background. So, and another thing I did was to increase the height of the floor. So this is what I have, and you can already see the effect. Though this is dark, but you can already see the effect of the spheres, these metallic spheres, that the bumpiness is not that intense compared to this. And you can also see the 4 here. You can, let me make this A and make this B. So you can already see the difference between this. So this looks more realistic than the first one, which just looks a bit CG like. And also if you also look at this sphere, you can notice this metallic sphere. You can notice that the bumpiness is reduced compared to when you have this. It's now reduced and all that. So, but the only downside to this, the only thing to this is the scene, which is dark. I should have added another light somewhere here to illuminate this. Well, it's something we can do by ourselves. But I'm ending the tutorial here, and I hope we've been able to get something out of this series. I'm happy to end the series, and it's a long series and long tutorials too. So if you like what you have, or you have a suggestion, or there are some things I did which you have a better way doing them, please, I would really appreciate if you hit me in the comment below. Make some stuffs and let me see what you can come up with, and so that we can discuss that. And like I always say, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please, I would really appreciate if you do subscribe, because that's what makes me happy. That's what keeps me going on to making tutorials for you guys out there. And I want to say thank you for going along with me in this journey of this series, and I hope to have another thing to talk about. So let's keep our fingers crossed till next Sunday that I'm going to drop another one. Do have a great day. God bless you.